Hey, what's up? So, Sisu is one of those movies that remind me of Rambo. It reminds me of Commando. It reminds me of Bruce Willis. It reminds me of Van Damme. It reminds me of Jackie Chan. It reminds me of the 90s, 80s, and early 2000 action movies. It reminds me of the relentless action heroes that we used to have back in the day, that were manly, that were brutal, that were formidable, in that everything would be thrown at them, but they would still come back and take over and win. And you either went in for the action or just plainly went in because of the person who was acting the movie. I remember there was a time I used to believe that any Arnold Schwarzenegger movie was going to be an action movie. Every time I heard that there was a movie in the works and Sylvester Stallone was going to star in it, or someone told me of a Sylvester Stallone movie that I had never seen, I would automatically assume that that was going to be an action movie. I would automatically assume that I was going to see some crazy explosions and over-the-top action set pieces. Yes, some movie worked, some movies actually disappointed, but generally what I'm trying to say is that there was a time when Hollywood movies were about action that did not make any logic, but it was just entertaining to just sit down and not worry about what the story is going to take you, not worry about the messaging, not worrying about trying to communicate something. Just the objective of the film was there to give you a good time. Now, Sisu is a movie from Finland. It's a European movie. And the one thing that really kept throwing me out of the movie is to think that this is not a Hollywood movie. The violence, just the general shot of the film, it feels very Hollywood, but they take a step with the brutality and the way the movie is shot. The best way to explain this movie is in terms of visuals. This is one of the best films that utilizes the concept of visual storytelling more than any other movie that I've ever seen. Yes, there are movies that I've seen that it's been a while since I've seen a movie that truly understands the concept of visual storytelling, whereby the main character doesn't talk a lot. They let you take in the movie. They understand that this is supposed to be a picture, then dialogue. The most important thing is the visuals. Even with the action, the action is very, very well shot. We don't have a lot of shaky cam. I don't think there's even any shaky cam, but the action is shot in such a way that you can see everything. It reminds you of John Wick. But the most important thing, the white text. They let you take in the movie. Every frame feels like a painting. It reminds me of what Zack Snyder said about his style of filmmaking, whereby he designs everything like a painting. And this movie also utilizes that concept, whereby it looks and feels like a painting. Every frame feels like a painting, and you have a lot of open areas. But in a way, the director and the cinematographers were able to make the environment interesting. I don't know how they were able to do that. It just looks like a painting, despite the fact that most of the areas are just land. There's a lot of sense. There's a sense of emptiness. If this was shot generically, you'd go like, this feels empty. But this feels empty but interesting. There's just a way that they were able to shoot using light, how the director chose to capture some scenes. It feels interesting, it feels engaging, despite the fact that the director was able to make an engaging visual spectacle, despite that when you actually think about it, it's just a really wide empty space. In terms of the story, the reason this reminds me of the 80s movie, another reason is that the story is pretty basic. I get gold, you take gold away from me, I try to get my gold back. It's as simple as that. Again, John Wick, shoot dogs. The concept is simple. You kill something, now I come and kill you. This is simple. I got something, you took something away from you, now I come, I want it back. And now you have Nazis. You see these Nazis die in some of the most brutal ways ever now. So the story is pretty basic, and this is what I was talking about, the 80s movie, where it was pretty basic, like Commando, you took my daughter, I will come and get back my daughter. And me, from the time you took my daughter to the time I get my daughter back, a lot of killing will happen. A lot of crazy action set pieces will happen. This is also that particular concept. It's like John Wick. You kill the puppy, now I kill my dog, now I come, I look for you, I kill you too. This is simple. I had gold, I found gold, you took the gold away from me, now I come because I want to get my gold back. And this time we have Nazis, and it's pretty fun to see all those guys. You see, there's something I saw with the trailers. They said killing Nazis was something to do with fun. You never have this fun watching Nazis get killed. Yes, that line makes a lot of sense because a lot of Nazis get killed in a brutal way. The fight scenes or the action set pieces are pretty brutal, and I love the fact that they actually embraced the insane. I like the fact that they embraced and updated the insane and absurd action set pieces of the 80s and 90s. So this movie got me thinking. That's basically my review. If you're thinking, if it's playing in your country and you're thinking, oh, do I go see this film? Go see it. It's pretty awesome. If you love action, if you love manly stuff, this is the movie for you. Do I have any dislikes? I can't think of any because I had a spectacular time with this film. I don't know why more people are not actually watching it. It has a defined look. It has that Second World War kind of feel. They're very authentic with it. It's very stylistic, and even the action set pieces are pretty stylistic. So for me, as a person who appreciates visual storytelling, this was pretty cool. This was pretty awesome. This was a very, very good time. I can't say that I actually had any problem with the film because even the editing is pretty awesome. It's pretty cool. It's stitched well, so well. Even the sound design, there's just something about a movie that makes a punch or a stab feel pretty interesting. And my goodness, the main character goes through a lot. I'm forgetting what I was talking about. I was talking about rating this film. I would give this movie a 4.5 out of 5. It's pretty awesome. It's very, very, very entertaining in terms of action. If you're looking, oh, this might be a flaw. If you're looking for a movie that has, a meaning or has message in it, or it's there to try to show you a different version of life, or it's there to give you more than just entertainment, this is not the movie for you. This is 100% designed for entertainment, and they throw it out there. So yeah, that's 4.5. Now, let's go back to action movies. This movie got me asking myself, what's happening to the modern day action movies? I think for me currently, the only action movies that I think of currently is Tom Cruise, Keanu Reeves, and who else? Scott Adkins, Donnie Yen. But when you actually think about it, these are not new action heroes. They are from the 90s. They are from the 90s and early 2000s. In this, our modern time, in terms of action, how many action heroes do we have? And when I mean action heroes, I mean stars who you would hear that they're working on a project, and immediately you know that you're going to have a good time in terms of action. You understand? In terms of if you hear about a Tom Cruise movie, you know what you'll get. Keanu Reeves, yeah, there was a time that there was a challenge, but basically when you hear that Keanu Reeves is attached to a project, you know that yes, you'll get this particular amount of action. If you hear of Scott Adkins, you know that you'll get action. Back in the 80s and 90s, when you would hear of Sylvester Stallone is working on a movie, you know there would be a lot of action. If you heard that Arnold Schwarzenegger was attached to a movie, you know that movie would have a lot of action. Today, no, I'm not talking about acting. I'm just talking about action. I mean, I'm talking about people like Van Damme, people who don't actually really, wouldn't get an Oscar. They are popular because of action. They are not Oscar-worthy people. I'm not talking about actors who are looked at as great actors. I'm talking about actors who are just popular because of on-screen violence, basically. So we are living in a Hollywood phase where we don't actually get to see a lot of that, or when you see a lot of that, it's very sanitized. Apart from the John Wicks of this universe, and the quality of B movies is slowly dying. B movie action movies is, unless it's what you don't actually get to see, unless it's something that streaming services are trying to stay away from, but you don't actually see a lot of crazy action B movies like the way you used to do in the 90s and the 80s, whereby you would see a Van Damme B movie and it would be pretty awesome. You would see a Jackie Chan B movie and it would still be awesome. You would see all these B Hong Kong action movies and they would still be awesome in terms of action. And you don't see a lot of that today because, well, the message, as someone would say, the message and the need, and for studios to try to be too dramatic with action movies. So yeah, basically that's it. If you know of an actor, apart from Tom Cruise and Keanu Reeves, if you know of an actor who you would see on a poster, or you would hear that they're working on a movie and you immediately know that their movies are going to be action movies, please let me know. I would wish to see modern versions of Michael J. White. I would wish to see modern action version of Will Smith. I would love to see modern action people like Wesley Snipes. You know, the 90s was rich. Who else? Idris Elba. Jason Bourne. I mean, when you actually really think about it, we've not had like younger action. If now we move to 2030, how will we look at this particular period? I know this is going to be the superhero age, but man, will we ever talk about younger action heroes that we got in this particular age? Because I don't see any. Most, when you talk of Michael J. White, you talk of 2000s. When you talk of Will Smith, you talk of 90s. When you talk of Wesley Snipes, you talk of 90s. When you talk of Arnold, when you talk of Rambo, you talk of the 80s. You don't really have, we have a few modern, but those action heroes like The Rock tend sometimes to try to make their action movies too dramatic, so they lose the core, which is again action hero. That's what we want to see. Don't try to give meaning to your action movie. Just make an action movie for the sake of making an action crazy movie. Okay, so those are my thoughts based on Sisu. If you have a list, you can put it down in the comment sections, and I will most definitely see you on the next one. Now subscribe, please subscribe, so that we can get an opportunity to actually talk about these interesting things about movies. So yeah, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.